Hi boys and girls, this is Miss Duignam here. Today I wanted to do some salt dough projects with you. I know some of you love clay, it's your favorite material that we use all year. So I came up with a way to use simple materials at home. Of course you're going to need permission and help with any parents or older brothers and sisters that are there. Certainly ask for permission first before using these ingredients. But salt dough ingredients that the recipe that I think works really well is just 1 cup of flour, a half a cup of salt, and a half a cup of water. So you mix those all together and you're going to get a dough like this. It feels a lot like the clay that we use in class. Now, I'm going to take this away. I found that sometimes if it feels too wet, I add just a little bit more flour. If it feels too dry, I add just a tiny bit more water. But otherwise, you should get a consistency that doesn't really stick to your hands anymore. Now, a few things that you can make with this. Third graders this year made some coil pots. So if you want to try a coil pot, you're going to start with some type of slab. A slab is a piece of clay that we roll out flat like a pancake. A slab should usually be about as thick as an Oreo cookie, which is about as thick as your finger. So I'm going to start by rolling my clay into a ball. And I'm going to use the palm of my hand right here to flatten it out. Now I'm not using, I'm not pounding it. I'm just gently pressing it with the palm of my hand until I get this disc shape. Again, much like a pancake. And you can turn it over. You can make this base really wide. You can make it a lot smaller. And then I'm going to use the other pieces of my extra clay, so it makes a good amount, to make a coil. A coil is a piece of clay that you roll out to look like a snake. So I'm going to put the base aside and I'm going to roll out my snake. A snake or a coil should be about as thick as a pencil. My daughter Kenley, she's 6, is sitting here doing the same thing on the other side of the counter. Can't see her the way my camera's set up, but she is also making coils. So really any age can do this. So I'm just going to keep rolling. If it breaks, you can stick it back together. Now, if we were using real clay, some of you might remember that there are proper ways to join clay so they stick together. They are score, slip, weld. And I remember that as scratch, water, wiggle, where you have to put scratches in the clay and then you put water on it to join it together. And then you have to blend it together. Well, this is salt dough. This isn't real clay. So I don't think those steps are necessary. Salt dough is used a lot for ornaments. But this is kind of a sticky material here. So it should stay together without doing those steps, which is nice about the salt dough. You can just kind of stick it together. Now, the nice thing about the salt dough too is that I'm just stacking the coils on top of each other, and then I'm going to make another one. So I'm going to take a small ball of clay, and I'm going to press and press and roll. I'm evenly distributing the pressure. I don't want to all do it. If I do it in the center here over and over and over, these ends are going to build up really thick and the middle is going to be super thin. Oh, and see, mine broke off, and that's okay. And then I'm going to stretch it back around again. Now mine is kind of breaking today. The last time I did this, it didn't. So I would probably just add a little bit more water. And I can just keep stacking these coils. I pull it apart, and then I roll it.
Can you have that?
Yep, Luke is here too. He's my 3-year-old, and he is also on the other side of the counter making some clay projects. Now, you have a couple options when you're done making your clay creations. You can ball it all back up, stick it in a plastic bag, and use it tomorrow. We did that for a couple days before it got really goopy and we couldn't use it anymore. And we just we just threw it out. Or the other thing we did with the clay was to bake it, to harden it. So I let it sit out for about 24 hours, so a whole day. And I stuck it in the oven on a low oven at 250 degrees for, excuse me, for 2 hours. And it hardened. So I made these, you can see them here, these little salt dough ornaments. I didn't stick anything in them, but I just used, they're actually Play-Doh cutters for my kids. And I used like little cookie cutters and made these, and these are hardened. They've been dried out and hardened. Here you go. And when you're done building up the coil pot, the neat thing about the coil pot is that you can make it as tall as you want it to go. You can make it really, really high, or you can make it kind of low. You can even add details to it. You can add handles to it. I'm going to make a spiral design. So I'm rolling out this clay. So again, I took these little ones after I let them dry for about 24 hours, and I put them on that.
Can you make me forky?
I can make you forky in a little bit. So I just made this spiral here. Might use a little water to dampen it, and you can press it to the wall of the pot, and you can make a design on the side of your pot. Oops, my pot's coming apart. You can even put them on the top here. You can put it like a handle. You can do it almost like a basket that way. So this would be, this is a coil pot. Again, a coil is a piece of clay that we used that's rolled out to look like a snake. So I can smooth this out using some water on the inside. I can let it harden. I can take it apart and I can make other things too. So I can just ball this back up. I could make a pinch pot. Pinch pot is a piece of clay that is, you just use your hands to make a pot. Now mine is starting to get a little dry, so I'm gonna just put a little bit of water on my hands. Make it a little sticky again so it doesn't break so much. There we go, that feels a little better. So a pinch pot is just a pot where we roll into a ball. You take your thumb and you stick it straight down into the middle of the pot. Not all the way, but almost all the way. And then while your thumb is inside of the pot, you're going to use your alligator mouth. This is your alligator mouth, and you're gonna press the walls of the pot. Walls of the pot, just like your slab before, should be about as thick as an Oreo cookie or about as thick as your finger. So here, that's about as thick as my finger. And that's a basic pot. You want the bottom to be the same thickness as well. And I can use a little bit of water and smooth that out. So here is my little pinch pot. Now the nice thing about a pinch pot is that you can turn this into other things as well. I can turn it this way and build some things on top of it. If you want to turn it into something there, maybe you turn this into an animal, or you can turn it this way and you can make this into an animal. So maybe I give this a head here, or I'm going to do little feet, maybe like a turtle. Little turtle's a good one. So here's one leg, turtle bowl, and another leg. So this is a good substitute for Play-Doh. It's a good substitute for actual clay when you don't have a kiln. Fun material put together. So I'm giving this little bowl some little turtle legs. And I can give him a head. So here I just rolled it into a ball. If you can't see me off screen. You might want to put down a piece of wax paper. I'm just doing this on the countertop But if you press too hard, it will stick to the counter and it'll make it hard to come off. I'd let it dry on like a piece of paper, or a paper plate is fine as well. Okay, so you make a turtle bowl, you can give it a little face on the front there. You can make this pinch pot into, you can take some tools, maybe like a paper clip, and carve some designs on the outside of this or the inside of this. I'm gonna ball this up right now. I'm gonna make a flower. So you could take a base. I'm gonna press this out like this. Maybe you want a square base. Again, about as thick as your finger, or as thick as an Oreo cookie is a good thickness. Again, I would do this, be careful that you don't let it harden to the countertop, the table. Okay, so here's my little base, and I can do things like flowers. Flower, I'm gonna do a center to my flower. And again, I could take a paper clip or my fingernails, and I can carve some kind of texture. Texture is the way something feels. I can put little marks in it. And then I can take other pieces here and I can make petals. So I just am really forming these with my hands, molding. This is a great rainy day activity, just to play with it. And I can make all these petals coming up like this. And here's another one. And I can just keep creating these and add some color to it when it's all done. So there are lots of options, and I really hope that you can make this dough into some fun things. It doesn't have to be something I showed you today. It could be something else. Maybe you love dinosaurs like my son Luke, who's roaring, or maybe you want to make a mermaid. Kenley earlier was making a snowman. It comes off very easily. So I'm just going to keep making these little petals. Now, as for painting, when I put these little stars that I made earlier, when I let these dry for a day, I stuck them in a low oven, 250 degrees for 2 hours, and I just let them bake, and you can hear they're hard now. I used different materials to see what I liked best. I personally like acrylic paint the best. I think it holds to the clay really well and it doesn't streak. The problem with acrylic paint, you do need to be careful because it does stain. So be careful. Again, get help from mom or dad if you choose to use acrylic paint. If you don't have acrylic paint, watercolor paint actually works really nice on this because it soaks in. And I tried oil pastels. Oil pastels also will stick to the clay. Just be careful because it will smudge and smear off unless you put some sort of fixative on it. And then I used tempera paint. Tempera paint was good. It also stuck, but it will, if you like even run your finger over it, it will leave a mark. It'll kind of leave a dent. All right, so once I have my flower there, I can even take some clay and make like a big leaf.
Ow.
And Kenley got one of these paper clips out, and I can take it and here, now I can draw into it. I can draw some lines in my leaf. So lots of options. Let me show you the ones that I've tested out for colors and for paints. This is stuck to there. There's my flower. You do all different kinds of flower. Look at photographs of flowers. So many options. Okay, so here are the different ones that I've tried. Again, I like the acrylic paint the best. But watercolor, certainly it does like soak in, which is really neat because it dries almost instantly. The oil pastels, you can put colors on top of colors. And the tempera paint, you can see how it's kind of scratching off a little bit, but it does still add color to it. So there are lots of options you can do with this salt dough. I hope you try some of them out. I've got this simple list of ingredients, 3 ingredients that you need from your kitchen. It does require a lot of salt, so be careful you're not taking too much if mom or dad need it for cooking. But thank you for joining me today. I can't wait to see what you create. I hope you're staying safe and healthy, and I miss you. Bye, friends.